Amara Wilson stood motionless in her small kitchen, her hands trembling as she stared at the letter on the table. The soft yellow light shone on the pristine white envelope, where the sender's name read, Ethan Caldwell, the white billionaire, with whom she had shared a fateful night 5 years ago at a lavish charity gala in New York. That night, Ethan's deep blue eyes locked onto hers, as if the entire world had narrowed to just the two. But the next morning, he had turned into a stranger, and Amara returned to her life, carrying the biggest secret: she was pregnant with triplets, Nia, Liam, and Theo children Ethan had no idea existed. The letter, stamped with the crisp seal of Caldwell Enterprises, was accompanied by a $5,000 check to cover travel expenses, and requested Amara to appear at the company headquarters at 10 a.m. on Monday. Her heart pounded. Why now? How had Ethan found her after all these years? Had he learned about the children and wanted to take them from her? The thought made Amara's stomach twist. She remembered those desperate days 5 years ago when she had tried calling Ethan's office only to be mocked by his assistant, a woman with a cold voice who called her a gold digger and blocked every attempt to reach him. The sting of that rejection still lingered like a wound that had never healed. From the living room came Nia's cheerful laughter, mixed with the playful bickering of Liam and Theo. Nia, the oldest by 2 minutes, led her younger brothers in building a castle out of wooden blocks. Liam, quiet and dreamy, was carefully stacking each piece, while Theo, always mischievous, was trying to climb onto the sofa to conquer the castle. "Theo, get down right now!" Amara called out, her voice tinged with panic, pulling her out of the whirlwind of thoughts. She rushed over to lift the boy down, her heart still racing, not just because of Theo's antics, but because of the letter waiting for her on the kitchen table. Amara sat down, gripping the envelope tightly. 5 years ago, she had been nothing more than a server at Ethan's charity gala, an ordinary black woman in a crowd of glamour and wealth. That night, Ethan's gaze had made her feel special, but when she discovered she was pregnant, all her dreams collapsed. After dozens of unanswered calls, Amara gave up and moved to a small town in Pennsylvania, working 2 jobs to raise her 3 children. Their home was far from luxurious, but it was filled with love. Now Ethan had found her. But why? And what was waiting for her in New York? She glanced at her children, Nia with her serious eyes, Liam with his thoughtful gaze, and Theo with his mischievous smile. All 3 bore Ethan's unmistakable blue eyes, a trait that could not be denied. Amara took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. Whatever Ethan wanted, she would not let anyone separate her from her children. This letter was a challenge, and she would face it head on, not just for herself, but for Nia, Liam, and Theo. Amara Wilson sat on the worn, fabric-covered chair in her living room, her eyes still locked on the letter from Ethan Caldwell. The laughter of Nia, Liam, and Theo echoed from the corner of the room where Nia was commanding her younger brothers to build an impenetrable fortress out of pillows and blankets. "Liam, higher," Nia ordered, while Theo tried to shove a pillow into the middle, causing the entire structure to collapse in a fit of giggles. Amara smiled faintly, but her mind returned to that fateful night 5 years ago. Dressed in a simple black server's dress, she had caught Ethan's deep blue gaze across the dazzling crowd at the charity gala. His gentle smile, the warmth of his deep voice as they talked, and that passionate moment in his penthouse had all felt like a dream, until she woke up alone with his parting words, "I'll call you never becoming a reality." She pulled out her phone, hesitating before dialing Keisha, the only friend who knew the entire story. "Keisha, he found me," Amara said, the moment her friend picked up her voice, trembling. "Ethan Caldwell. He wants to meet me in New York on Monday. There's even a $5,000 check." There was silence on the other end, and then Keisha spoke, her voice filled with concern. "Ethan, the father of the kids, Why is he showing up now? Do you think he knows about Nia, Liam, and Theo? Amara tightened her grip on the phone, her eyes drifting toward the children. I don't know, but if he does, if he wants to take them. She couldn't finish the sentence, the fear lodged in her throat like a stone. Keisha sighed. Amara, you can't keep hiding forever. You tried to reach out to him, but his team blocked you. Now that he's reaching out, you have to face it. Not just for you, but for the kids. They deserve to know who their father is. Amara bit her lip, remembering the scornful voice of the assistant on the phone years ago. Who do you think you are asking to see, Mr. Caldwell? Don't waste our time. That sting of dismissal still simmered, but Keisha was right. She couldn't let the past dictate her children's future. Amara stood up, walked to the old bookshelf, and pulled out a small box. Inside was the only photo she had kept from that night, she and Ethan standing side by side in the ballroom. His eyes lit up as he looked at her. The photo had yellowed over time, but the warmth in his gaze still made her heart race. Did he still remember her? Or was this letter just a legal maneuver to control her and the children? She closed the box, a surge of determination rising in her chest. I'm going to New York, she told Keisha, her voice firmer now. And I'm taking the kids with me. If Ethan wants to see me, he will see them too. It's time the truth came out. She hung up and looked at her children still playing. Nia was drawing a treasure map for the fortress. Liam quietly rebuilt the blocks, and Theo again tried to climb onto the chair. Careful, Theo, Amara called out, but inside her a fire had been lit. Whatever awaited her in New York, she would face it not as the trembling server from years ago, but as a mother, ready to fight for her family. Amara Wilson tightly held Nia and Liam's hands, while Theo clung to her leg, his wide eyes curiously scanning the surroundings of JFK Airport. The loudspeaker announcements blended with the crowd's clamor, making Amara feel overwhelmed. This was her first time flying with all three triplets, Nia, Liam, and Theo, and everything felt like too much. 3 child safety seats, 1 stroller, 3 small suitcases, and her luggage. But the $5,000 check from Ethan Caldwell had made the trip possible, covering airfare, a family suite at a luxurious Manhattan hotel, and even transportation services. As they moved through the crowd, Amara could feel the curious gazes of passers-by, a black woman with 3 mixed-race children, each with striking blue eyes. A middle-aged man stopped and stared at her probingly, prompting Amara to pull her children closer instinctively. Mom, why is that man looking at us? Nia asked in a quiet but perceptive voice. Amara forced a smile. He's just curious, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. In the shuttle, the children pressed their faces against the window, marveling at the glittering skyscrapers of Manhattan. Mom, look. It's as tall as in the movies, Theo exclaimed, pointing at a glass tower. Liam, quieter, scribbled a picture of an airplane in his small notebook, while Nia held Amara's hand and asked, Mom, who's the important person you told us about? Does he live here? Amara took a deep breath, her heart heavy. She had only told the children they were on a special trip to New York, not daring yet to reveal the truth about Ethan. How could she explain that they were about to meet their father, the man she had once told them was far away, leading them to believe he was in heaven? We're going to meet someone very special, she answered gently, though her voice wavered. I'll explain more when we get there. Okay. The hotel Ethan had arranged was beyond anything Amara had imagined. The family suite included 2 bedrooms, a spacious living area with windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline, and a small kitchenette. Nia immediately began checking all the drawers. Liam sat on the sofa reading a picture book, and Theo dashed to the bed and started jumping. Mom is there! A swimming pool! he asked, eyes wide with excitement. "Tomorrow, sweetheart," Amara replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Tonight, we need to rest." But as she stood by the window gazing down at the glittering city lights, her mind was filled with anxiety. Ethan Caldwell, with his world of luxury and power, was now only a few miles away. She remembered the night of the gala, how he had looked at her as if she were the only person in that crowded room. Did he still remember that moment? Or was she just a fleeting memory? And this letter, nothing more than a cold legal procedure. Amara reached for her purse where she had kept the old photo of her and Ethan. She wasn't sure why she had brought it, perhaps to remind herself of that moment when she felt truly seen, or to brace herself for facing the man who had changed her life. As she bathed the kids and tucked them in, Nia whispered, "Mom, does this trip make you nervous?" Amara kissed her daughter's forehead, hiding her fear. "I'm okay, sweetheart. I want everything to be good for you." When the room fell quiet, Amara sat by the window, her eyes lost in the glow of the city. Tomorrow, she would face Ethan not just for the past, but to protect her children's future. No matter what happened, she would not let anyone harm her little family. Amara Wilson stood in front of the towering building of Caldwell Enterprises, her heart pounding, as if it might leap out of her chest. The glass and steel skyscraper shimmered under the morning sun, a symbol of the power and prestige that Ethan Caldwell represented. Nia clung tightly to her left hand, her curious eyes observing the passers-by in their expensive suits. Liam, always the quiet one, held onto her right hand, while Theo, usually so energetic, was unexpectedly huddled against her leg, seemingly overwhelmed by the building's grandeur. "Mom, is this where the important person works?" Nia asked, tilting her head back to look at the tower's peak. Amara swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes, sweetheart. Today we're going to meet someone very special." The polished marble floor and modern art on the walls inside the grand lobby made Amara feel out of place. She led the children to the reception desk, where a young woman in a sleek business outfit glanced at them with mild surprise. "I'm Amara Wilson," she said, her voice slightly shaky. "I have an appointment with Mr. Caldwell at 10 a.m. The receptionist checked the screen, her eyes flicking briefly to the three children with their striking blue eyes. "Yes, Ms. Wilson. Please follow me." They were led to a private elevator that took them straight to the top floor. When the doors opened, another tall, elegant woman introduced herself as Ethan's assistant. "Mr. Caldwell is finishing a call. Please have a seat." Amara and the children sat in the waiting area on a glossy leather sofa. Nia, Liam, and Theo sat quietly, sensing their mother's tension. But as Amara tried to gather her composure, a familiar face appeared in the hallway. It was Karen, Ethan's former assistant, who had mocked her over the phone 5 years ago, calling her a gold digger when she desperately tried to reach Ethan. Karen paused, her eyes sweeping from Amara to the children, and a flicker of confusion crossed her face before she quickly turned away. Amara clenched her fists, the memory of humiliation slicing through her like a blade. She wanted to call out to force Karen to face the consequences of her past actions, but the sound of a door opening cut through her thoughts. Ethan Caldwell stepped out, tall and imposing, in a deep blue suit, his blonde hair touched with silver under the office lights. He was as handsome as she remembered, though now there were fine lines at the corners of his eyes, signs of time and pressure. His deep blue gaze locked onto Amara, then shifted to the three children on the sofa. Time seemed to stop. Amara rose to her feet and took a deep breath. "Ethan," she said, her voice firm despite the chaos in her chest. "I want you to meet Nia, Liam, and Theo, our children." Silence fell over the room. Ethan's face paled as his eyes moved across each child, recognizing the unmistakable blue eyes identical to his own. "Our children." He repeated, his voice unsteady, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Nia, ever sharp and curious, stepped forward and looked at Ethan. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice clear but filled with challenge. Ethan knelt to her level, though his eyes remained fixed on Amara, filled with questions. Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice trembling with pain and confusion. Amara held his gaze, memories of unanswered calls flooding back. "I tried, Ethan. I called your office dozens of times. But your team—" She glanced toward the hallway where Karen had just disappeared. "They never gave me a chance. They thought I was just another gold digger." Ethan blinked as if struck. He looked back at the children, then turned to Amara, his voice hoarse. "Amara, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Before Amara could respond, Theo jumped off the sofa, ran toward Ethan, and pointed at him. "You have eyes like us," the little boy exclaimed, breaking the tension in the room. Still seated, Liam observed Ethan cautiously, as if trying to figure out who this man was. Amara felt her throat tighten. She had both longed for and feared this moment. The truth was out. But what would happen next? Ethan stood, his eyes never leaving the children, as if struggling to absorb a new reality. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low but resolute. "Just the two of us." Amara nodded, but inside her a storm of emotions was raging. She had opened the door to the past, and now there was no turning back. Amara Wilson stood in Ethan Caldwell's luxurious office, her heart still pounding after the moment she had introduced Nia, Liam, and Theo as his children. His assistant, Patricia, took the kids to the company's break room, where there were cookies and toys, leaving Amara and Ethan alone, in a room thick with tension. Still in shock, Ethan sat down, his hands clenched tightly, as if trying to hold himself together. "Amara," he said, his voice hoarse, "I didn't send that letter. I didn't know anything about the children until just now." Amara frowned, confused. "It wasn't you then who sent it. Who knows about me and the kids?" Before Ethan could answer, the office door swung open. A man entered, looking so much like Ethan that Amara gasped. He had the same height, blonde hair, and deep blue eyes, though his hair was slightly longer, and a small scar above his right eyebrow set him apart. "I sent the letter," the man said, his voice deep but resolute. "I'm Nathan, Ethan's twin brother." Amara felt her head spin. Twin. She looked back and forth between the two men, their resemblance making her shiver. Ethan jumped to his feet, anger flashing in his eyes. "Nathan, what did you do? How dare you interfere in my life without asking?" Nathan raised his hand, trying to calm him. "Ethan, just hear me out. I did this for you." He turned to Amara, his gaze sincere but tinged with awkwardness. "Ms. Wilson, I hired a private investigator over a year ago to find any relatives who could help Ethan. He's suffering from kidney failure and needs a transplant. But neither I nor our parents are a match. When the investigator found you, he discovered you had 3 children. The timing, it matched the night of the gala 5 years ago. I guessed they might be Ethan's." Amara felt heat rush to her face. "You investigated me, invaded the privacy of me and my children without asking." Her voice was sharp, trembling with the sting of being treated like a subject of inquiry. Ethan stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder, his voice gentler, though still tinged with anger. "Amara, I didn't know anything about this. Nathan, you need to explain yourself clearly." Nathan sighed, sinking into the chair across from them. "Ethan, you've been so stubborn, refusing every suggestion to get tested again. You keep saying you'll wait your turn on the donor list, but you're getting weaker by the day. I had to do something." He looked at Amara, his eyes apologetic. Ms. Wilson, I meant no disrespect. When I saw the children's photos with those same blue eyes as Ethan's, I knew I had to act. I sent the letter with the check hoping to bring you here. I was hoping that you or the children might be a match, or that Ethan deserved to know about his kids. Amara stepped back, feeling as though the floor was collapsing beneath her. So you brought me here to see if I could donate a kidney, or worse, to pressure my children into this. Her voice was icy, shaking with the violation of having been investigated like a case file. Nathan shook his head firmly. No, not at all. Children are the absolute last resort for transplants, only in the most desperate situations. I thought, you're their mother. Maybe you'd have compatible traits, or that the existence of the kids might help us find more family members. Ethan clenched his fists, his eyes cold as they turned toward Nathan. You crossed a line, Nathan. This isn't just about you or me. This is Amara's life. These are my children's lives. He turned to Amara, his voice softening. I'm sorry he hurt you. I didn't know about the letter, the kids, or anything. Amara searched his eyes, looking for sincerity. Those blue eyes, now filled with pain and regret, reminded her of that night 5 years ago when he had looked at her like she was the only person in the world. But that memory was blurred now by the rising anger inside her. Ethan, Nathan, both of you, she said, her voice trembling but firm. I didn't come here to be used or investigated. I came here for my children. And if you want to be a part of their lives, you must prove you're worthy. The break room door burst open, and Theo ran in holding a cookie. Mom, I found the treasure, he shouted, unaware of the tense atmosphere. Nia and Liam followed behind, their eyes curiously scanning Nathan. Who's he? Nia asked, looking between Ethan and Nathan. Amara took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. This is Uncle Nathan, she said gently, though her eyes remained cautious. Ethan knelt, looking at the children with a sad smile. We'll talk more, okay? But for now, Mom and Dad need a little time to talk. Amara nodded, but inside her a question still echoed loudly. Was Ethan ready to be a father, or was this just part of a plan to save his life? Amara Wilson sat across from Ethan Caldwell in his spacious office, sunlight streaming through the windows and illuminating his deep blue eyes, the same eyes Nia, Liam, and Theo had inherited. Patricia had taken the children back to the break room, leaving Amara and Ethan alone in a quiet space, broken only by the ticking of the wall clock. Ethan bowed his head, fingers tightly interlaced, as if trying to find the words to break the silence. Amara. He finally spoke, his voice low and filled with emotion. I can't describe what it felt like to find out I have 3 children, but I need you to understand, I want to be part of their lives, and part of yours, if you'll let me. Amara felt her heart tighten. Ethan's words were sincere, but the memory of unanswered phone calls from 5 years ago still haunted her like a shadow. Ethan, that's easy for you to say, she replied, her voice calm but sharp. I raised Nia, Liam, and Theo alone for 5 years. I worked 2 jobs and moved to a small town to cut living costs. I begged you to listen, but your team shut me out. And now you say you want to be part of us. You think it's that simple? Ethan winced as if her words were knives. I didn't know, Amara. I swear I didn't. If I had known about the kids, I would have come for you immediately. Before Amara could respond, the break room door opened and Liam walked in, his wide eyes looking at Ethan cautiously. Mom, the boy said softly, his voice trembling. Why did Dad leave us? Amara felt her heart stop. She knelt beside Liam, pulling him into her arms. Sweetheart, your dad didn't leave you. I couldn't reach him. She glanced at Ethan, who had jumped to his feet, his eyes filled with pain. He knelt in front of Liam, his voice gentle but firm. Liam, I didn't know about you, Nia, or Theo. But I promise from now on, I'll be here. I want to know everything about you." Ethan suggested taking Amara and the children to lunch at a nearby park to get to know them. In the soft sunlight, Nia quickly took over the conversation, telling Ethan all about the treasure map she had drawn at home. Theo, bursting with energy, ran across the grass, challenging Ethan to chase him. Though still reserved, Liam quietly handed Ethan his sketchbook, a drawing of an airplane on the open page. Amara watched from the bench, her heart both warm and conflicted. Ethan was natural with the children, as if he'd been born to be their father. But when he looked at her, his eyes reminded her of that night 5 years ago, the night she thought she had found love only to lose it the next morning. In a quiet moment, Ethan sat beside Amara. "I know you don't fully trust me," he said softly. "But you should know that night with you wasn't just a one-night thing to me. I looked for you after the gala, but the catering company said you had quit. I had no way to reach you." Amara looked at him, torn inside. "Ethan, I don't know how much I can believe, but there's one thing I'm sure of: if you want to be their father, I need you to prove it. And I'll take the test to see if I can donate a kidney, not for me, but for Nia, Liam, and Theo. They need their father." Ethan took her hand, the touch gentle yet meaningful. "Thank you, Amara. Not just for the test, but for giving me a chance." But as she nodded, a part of her remained cautious. Nathan, the twin brother, was still an enigma. He had investigated her and sent that letter without consent, and now she knew Ethan was battling kidney failure. Would this truth change everything? Amara felt a flicker of hope as the children ran back laughing and pulling Ethan back into play. But deep down, she knew this journey was only beginning, and the road ahead would be far from easy. Amara Wilson stepped out of the elevator at Caldwell Enterprises, holding her children's hands, Nia, Liam, and Theo, after an emotionally charged morning with Ethan. The eyes of the employees in the grand lobby seemed to follow her, a black woman, walking with 3 mixed-race children, bearing unmistakable blue eyes. A woman in a business suit, whom Amara recognized from the gala 5 years ago, whispered to a colleague, her eyes filled with judgment. "Who does she think she is, showing up here with 3 kids?" Amara caught part of the comment, and her heart clenched. She pulled her children closer, trying to maintain her composure, but a wave of insecurity washed over her. She was just a community worker from a small town, and this was Ethan's world, a world she had never truly belonged to. Back at the hotel, Amara received a message from Keisha and a link to a tabloid article. The headline screamed, "Billionaire Ethan Caldwell and his secret lover, single mom or gold digger." The article speculated about Amara's relationship with Ethan, insinuating she was using him for financial gain. A candid photo taken at JFK Airport showing her leading the children through the crowd was attached with the caption, "The mystery mother and her 3 children spotted arriving in New York." Amara felt her face flush with heat. She feared this, the curious stares, the whispered comments, and now the world casting judgment. "Mom, why are you sad?" Liam asked quietly, watching her from the corner of the sofa with thoughtful eyes. Amara forced a smile, gently brushing his hair. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Just thinking about this trip." Ethan called shortly afterward, his voice filled with concern. "Amara, I just saw the article. I'm so sorry, I didn't expect it to spread so fast. I'll have the media team take care of it." Amara took a deep breath, trying to contain her anger. "Ethan, I don't care about the article for myself, but what about the kids? They'll be dragged into this. I don't want them growing up hearing whispers that their mother was some gold digger." There was a pause on Ethan's end before he replied, "I'll protect them. I'll protect you. I promise." He then suggested taking the entire family to visit his parents in Bedford over the weekend so the children could relax and get away from the public attention. Amara agreed, but in her heart, the pressure only intensified. Meeting the Caldwell family members of the upper class meant stepping into a world that had always felt foreign to her. At the end of the day, as Amara bathed the kids, Nia suddenly asked, "Mom, do people hate us because we're different from everyone here?" The question struck Amara like a blade to the heart. She knelt and hugged Nia tightly. "No one hates you, Nia. Some people just don't understand us. But me, you, Liam, and Theo, we're a family which matters most." She looked into Nia's blue eyes, the same as Ethan's, and felt a flicker of resolve. She wouldn't let whispers or tabloid headlines shake her. But as she tucked the children into bed, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You don't belong in this world. Be careful." Amara shivered but deleted the message, unwilling to let her children see her fear. She knew the trip to Bedford wouldn't just be a family visit. It would be a test to prove that she belonged with Ethan and that her children had a rightful place in this world of judgment and power. Amara Wilson sat inside Ethan Caldwell's luxurious SUV, her heart racing as the vehicle rolled past the wrought iron gates of the Caldwell family estate in Bedford, just over an hour's drive from Manhattan. Lush rows of trees and a gravel path led to a massive stone mansion that made her feel small. Nia, Liam, and Theo pressed their faces to the windows, marveling at the expansive gardens and the sparkling koi pond. "Mom, is this a castle?" Theo exclaimed, eyes wide with wonder. Amara gave a tight smile, smoothing the simple navy blue dress she had agonized over for hours. "It's not a castle, sweetheart," she replied. "This is your grandparents' home." But deep down, she wondered if she could ever find her place in this upper-class world. Ethan, seated beside her, gently squeezed her hand. "Don't worry," he said softly. "My parents are looking forward to meeting you and the kids." Amara nodded, but the memory of the tabloid that called her a gold digger and the threatening message from the unknown number still lingered. James and Eleanor Caldwell stepped outside as the car pulled up to the entrance. James, tall, silver-haired, with the same piercing blue eyes as Ethan, carried a commanding presence. Eleanor, petite, with a warm smile, rushed forward. "Oh my goodness, look at these little ones," she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up as she looked at Nia, Liam, and Theo. "James, they have the Caldwell eyes." Eleanor knelt and embraced all three children. "I'm Grandma Eleanor, and this is Grandpa James. We're so happy to meet you." Nia, ever the bold one, stepped forward. "I'm Nia. I'm the oldest. This is Liam, and that's Theo. He's the youngest, but only by 3 minutes." Theo made a face, making everyone laugh. James, who had stood back initially, stepped forward. His eyes softened, though there was still a trace of reservation. "They're adorable," he said, then turned to Amara. "Ms. Wilson, thank you for bringing them here." Amara smiled, but she could feel the weight of his gaze, as if he were silently evaluating whether she belonged in their family. In the garden, the kids were quickly swept up into their adventures. Nia explored the hedge maze, and the koi pond enchanted Liam. Theo climbed an old slide Eleanor said once belonged to Ethan and Nathan. Amara sat with Eleanor on the porch sipping tea, while Ethan and James took the kids to the greenhouse. Eleanor gently took Amara's hand, her voice sincere. "I know this isn't easy for you, Amara. I faced the same judgment when I got engaged to James. His family disapproved I was from a working-class background, but love got us through." Amara was surprised by her honesty. "Really, I always thought this family was perfect." Eleanor smiled wistfully. "No family is perfect. James worries about the Caldwell name, but he will love the children. And you, Amara, you're stronger than you think." But the warm moment was broken when James returned and casually asked, "Ms. Wilson, Have you given any thought to the children's financial future? A large family like this needs a clear plan. Amara stiffened, feeling like she was being interrogated. I've always provided for my kids, she replied, calm but firm. I work, I save, and I don't need help from anyone. James nodded, but his lingering stare left her uneasy. Ethan, sensing the tension, stepped in. Dad, Amara's done everything for the kids to have a good life. We're here to welcome them, not question their financial plans. The afternoon went on with cheerful moments. The kids played, and Eleanor shared stories of Ethan and Nathan's childhood. But Amara couldn't shake the feeling of being scrutinized. As they prepared to leave, James pulled her aside. Ms. Wilson, I meant no offense, he said in a deep voice. But you need to understand our family is under constant public scrutiny. That tabloid article complicates everything. I want to protect the children. Amara looked him straight in the eyes. I want to protect them too, Mr. Caldwell. And I will, with or without anyone's approval. James gave a faint smile as if acknowledging her resolve. But Amara knew the fight to secure her place in this family was far from over. On the ride back to Manhattan, the kids fell asleep, and Amara stared out the window, her mind spinning. Ethan reached over and took her hand. You did great today, he said. My dad will come around, he just needs time. Amara nodded, but inside her purse her phone buzzed again, another message from the unknown number. They will never accept you. She clenched her hand tightly, determined not to let fear win. But as she looked at Ethan and the children, she silently wondered, could she truly find her place in their world? Or would these barriers eventually destroy everything she was trying to build? Amara Wilson stood by the hotel window, looking out over the glittering lights of Manhattan, her heart heavy after an emotionally exhausting week. Nia, Liam, and Theo were fast asleep in the next room, their steady breathing a small comfort amidst the storm swirling inside her. The visit to the Caldwell estate in Bedford, with Eleanor's warm welcome and James's reserved gaze, still lingered in her mind. The anonymous messages. You don't belong here, and they will never accept you, continued to haunt her. But Amara was determined not to let them win. What worried her most now was the outcome of the kidney donor test for Ethan Caldwell, the father of her children, a man fighting kidney failure. That morning, Amara had gone to Mount Sinai Hospital to be tested, a decision she made for Nia, Liam, and Theo. She wanted them to have their father, even if her relationship with Ethan remained uncertain. When her phone rang and Dr. Patel's number appeared, Amara took a deep breath before answering. Ms. Wilson, Dr. Patel said gently, I'm afraid the results are not what we hoped for. You have a compatible blood type, but the genetic markers don't match. You won't be able to donate a kidney to Mr. Caldwell. It felt like the floor collapsed beneath her. She murmured a thank you, ended the call, and sank onto the sofa, burying her face in her hands. She had hoped even just a little that she could save Ethan, not just for the kids, but because part of her still felt the connection from that fateful night 5 years ago. Ethan arrived at the hotel shortly after, fatigue visible in his eyes, though he tried to smile. Dr. Patel called, he said, sitting beside her. You don't need to blame yourself. Just agreeing to be tested was more than enough. Amara shook her head, her voice trembling. Ethan, you don't understand. I did it for the kids, but I also want you to get better. You're their father, and I see you getting weaker. Ethan looked at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. Amara, I've been keeping something from you, he confessed, voice low. My condition is worse than I said. I've been on dialysis for 6 months, and if I don't find a donor, I might only have a few years left. A wave of anger rose in Amara. Why didn't you tell me the truth? Did you think I didn't deserve to know? The argument erupted, her voice sharper than she intended. Ethan, I opened my heart to you. I brought the kids here. I faced your family, the tabloids calling me a gold digger. And now you tell me you might not live long. How do you expect me to trust you?" Ethan reached for her hand, his eyes filled with remorse. "I'm sorry, Amara. I didn't want to burden you. I was afraid you'd walk away if you knew, and I'd lose my chance with you and the kids." Amara pulled her hand back, but something in his voice stopped her. She looked at him, finally noticing the signs of illness. She had missed the pale skin, the faint dark circles under his eyes, and the fatigue he tried to hide. Ethan suggested a walk in Central Park to help them clear their minds. Beneath the green canopy, they walked in silence, spring air gently surrounding them. "Amara," Ethan finally said, "that night at the gala, I felt something real with you. I never forgot you, even though I didn't know where you had gone. Now, seeing you again, meeting our children, I want to build a family with you, however long I have left." Amara stopped, her heart pounding. "Ethan, I felt something that night too. But 5 years is a long time. I don't know if we can go back." Ethan met her eyes, steady and sincere. "I'm not asking to go back. I'm asking for a chance to start over, to prove I can be the father and partner you and the kids deserve." When they returned to the hotel, Amara felt a slight shift inside. She was still worried about Ethan's illness, the anonymous messages, and the pressure from the Caldwell family. But when she saw Ethan playing with Nia, Liam, and Theo in the hotel lounge, Nia teaching him to draw a treasure map, Liam showing him his airplane sketch, and Theo pulling him into a game of chase, she felt a flicker of hope. Then her phone buzzed. A new message from the same unknown number appeared. "He won't live long. Leave before it's too late." Amara gripped the phone tightly, refusing to let fear win. She would stay in New York, not just for the children, but to find out who was trying to sabotage the fragile happiness she was fighting so hard to build. Amara Wilson sat in a quiet corner of a luxurious Manhattan restaurant, the chandelier's light shimmering against her elegant black dress. Across from her sat Ethan Caldwell, dressed in a dark gray suit, looking healthier than he had weeks ago, though the faint circles under his eyes betrayed the exhaustion of dialysis treatments. Since the failed kidney match, Amara and Ethan spent more time with their children, Nia, Liam, and Theo, visiting parks and museums and sharing cozy evenings at the hotel. But the anonymous messages continued to haunt Amara, each warning her, "You don't belong here. They will never accept you," and most recently, "He won't live long." She had kept them secret, not wanting to worry Ethan, but each message felt like a grim reminder of how fragile their happiness was. That evening, Ethan had invited Amara to dinner, their first time alone since the gala 5 years ago. When the waiter brought out the appetizers, Ethan took her hand, his deep blue eyes glowing under the candlelight. "Amara, I've wanted to say this for a long time," he began, his voice low and sincere. "Seeing you again, meeting our children, it's changed my life. We lost 5 years, but I don't want to lose another day." Before Amara could respond, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it to reveal a diamond ring with an emerald cut that sparkled under the light. "Amara Wilson, will you marry me? I want us to be a family officially and forever." Amara's breath caught. She looked at the ring, then at Ethan, her heart pounding between joy and fear. "Ethan, She paused, her eyes blurring with tears. "I want that, but you're sick. If we don't find a donor, if I lose you—" Ethan tightened his grip on her hand, his voice unwavering. "We will find one, Amara, and no matter what happens, I want every day I have left to be with you and our children." But a flash from the restaurant's corner suddenly interrupted the romantic moment. Amara turned and saw a man with a camera darting away. Paparazzi Ethan muttered, standing up and signaling the security staff. He returned, eyes apologetic. "I'm sorry, Amara. I'll take care of this." Amara felt anger rising not just at the photographer, but at everything: the tabloids, the anonymous messages, the pressure from the Caldwell family. "Ethan, I'm not sure I can handle your world," she said, trembling. "The stares, the whispers, and now cameras. I want the kids to be safe." Ethan took both her hands in his gaze fierce. "Amara, I'll protect you. I know you're facing more than I can understand: judgment, prejudice. But I'm here and won't let you fight this alone." His sincerity made Amara hesitate. She remembered the night of the gala, how he had looked at her like she was the only one in the world. Could she trust him again? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed with another anonymous message. "The wedding won't save him." Amara shivered but locked the screen, not wanting Ethan to see. She looked into his eyes, feeling the warmth and resolve there. "Ethan, I'm scared," she admitted, "but I want to try for the kids and for us. I'll marry you. But we need to take this one step at a time." Ethan smiled, a radiant smile like sunlight, and slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, glittering like a promise. As they stood, a soft jazz tune, the same one from the gala 5 years ago, began to play. As if fate itself was smiling at them, Ethan pulled her onto the small dance floor, and they swayed together under the admiring eyes of the other guests. The next morning, Amara received a call from Dr. Patel. A compatible kidney donor had been found. Sarah Mitchell, a modest woman whose husband also needed a transplant, had agreed to donate to Ethan through a kidney exchange program. In return, her husband would receive a kidney from another matched donor. Amara felt a surge of hope, but the anonymous messages still gnawed at her. He pulled her into a tight embrace when she told Ethan about Sarah. "This is our chance, Amara," he said. "A new beginning." But as she looked at the ring on her finger, Amara couldn't help but wonder, would the person behind the threats ever let them have the happiness they were fighting to build? Amara Wilson sat on the edge of the hospital bed, her hand tightly gripping Ethan Caldwell's as the cold white lights of Mount Sinai's waiting area surrounded them. Today was the day of Ethan's kidney transplant, a chance to free him from the disease that had threatened his life. Sarah Mitchell, the modest woman who had agreed to donate her kidney to Ethan through a donor exchange program, was being prepped in another room. Amara tried to stay composed, but her heart was pounding with fear. Nia, Liam, and Theo were at home with Grandma Eleanor, kept away from the tension of the hospital, but their absence only deepened Amara's anxiety. She looked at Ethan, his skin pale under the lights, but his deep blue eyes still radiated determination. "I'll be okay, Amara," he whispered, squeezing her hand tighter. "We'll get through this." The past few weeks had been an emotional whirlwind. Since Ethan's unexpected proposal, Amara had worn the diamond ring, a promise of a future she both hoped for and feared. But the anonymous messages, one after another, warning her, "You don't belong here. They will never accept you. He won't live long, and most recently the wedding won't save him," had become increasingly disturbing. Yesterday, a new message arrived. "Watch out tomorrow." Amara kept it from Ethan, not wanting to add to his stress before the surgery, but the threat kept her awake all night. She wondered who was behind these texts: a business rival of Ethan's, or someone from his elite world who didn't want her intruding. Nathan, Ethan's twin brother, entered the room carrying 2 cups of coffee. "How's it going, big brother?" he asked, trying to keep his tone upbeat. Ethan managed a faint smile. "Ready for battle." Nathan handed 1 cup to Amara, his eyes filled with remorse. "Amara, you haven't fully forgiven me for the letter, but I am glad you're here." Amara nodded, Her voice was soft but firm. For Ethan and the kids, Nathan. But I still want to know who helped you find me. Did your investigator notice anything unusual? Nathan furrowed his brow, as if her question touched on something more profound. I'll check again, he promised. But Amara felt a flicker of suspicion. Was Nathan hiding something? A nurse stepped in, announcing it was time for pre-surgery prep. Amara kissed Ethan, her lips trembling as they touched his. You have to return to us, Ethan, she whispered. For me and the kids. Ethan smiled gently, brushing her cheek. I promise. But before being wheeled away, he took a small box from Nathan and handed it to Amara. For Sarah Mitchell, he said. A thank you gift. Amara opened it and found a gold necklace with a pendant engraved with the words, Thank you for the gift of life. Tears welled in her eyes, moved by Ethan's thoughtfulness, even in such a vulnerable moment. In the waiting room, Amara sat with Nathan Eleanor and James Caldwell. The air was heavy with silence. Eleanor held Amara's hand, whispering, He's strong, Amara. He'll get through this. But James, usually stern, unexpectedly said, Ms. Wilson, I was wrong to doubt you. You're here despite the tabloids, the whispers. I'm proud to have you as part of our family. His words surprised Amara, but she nodded, too anxious to respond. She left the waiting area to visit Sarah Mitchell, recovering after surgery. Sarah, a middle-aged woman with a gentle smile, took Amara's hand. My husband's getting his transplant tomorrow, she said. We're saving each other, you know. Amara gave her the necklace, tears falling freely. Thank you, Sarah. You've given us hope. 4 hours later, Dr. Patel entered the waiting room, a smile on his face, easing the weight in Amara's chest. The surgery was a success, he said. The kidney is functioning well. Ethan is in recovery, and you can see him soon. Amara embraced Eleanor, a flood of relief washing over her. But when she checked her phone, a new anonymous message chilled her to the bone. He lives, but you might not. She deleted it, refusing to let it ruin the moment. When she entered the recovery room, Ethan opened his eyes, his voice weak but warm. You're here, he whispered. Amara held his hand, tears streaming. You did it, Ethan. We have a future. But deep down, she knew the person behind the threats was still watching, and she would have to face them to protect the family she had fought so hard to build. Amara Wilson stood inside the wedding tent, set up in a quiet corner of Central Park, the October sunlight filtering through golden autumn leaves, illuminating the ivory silk gown that clung to her brown skin. Eleanor Caldwell, smiling warmly, adjusted the intricate braids in Amara's hair. You look beautiful, Amara, she said, her eyes glistening. Today is your and Ethan's day. Amara smiled, her fingers, brushing the diamond ring on her hand, a symbol of Ethan's promise after his successful kidney transplant 2 months ago. Yet a trace of unease lingered in her heart. The anonymous, threatening messages, the last one reading, He lives, but you might not had stopped after she reported them to the police, but she still felt the shadow of whoever had sent them. Nia, Liam, and Theo, today's flower girl and ring bearers, were outside under James Caldwell's supervision. Amara could hear Nia shouting, Liam, don't get your shirt dirty. Theo, stand still. She laughed softly, imagining her daughter bossily directing her brothers. The past 2 months had been a miraculous journey. Ethan had recovered quickly, color returning to his face, and he had devoted every day to bonding with the children, taking Nia to art class, reading with Liam, and playing ball with Theo. Amara had continued her work at the nonprofit and was recently promoted to program director, and Ethan supported her career fully. They had moved into an apartment in Manhattan where the kids had their rooms and a fresh start. But today, They would officially become a family beneath the autumn sun. As Amara stepped out of the tent holding Nathan Caldwell's arm, his role as best man to his brother, she saw Ethan standing beneath an arch of roses and fall leaves, his deep blue eyes lighting up when he saw her. In her tiny white dress, Naya scattered flower petals in front, while Liam and Theo, serious-faced, carried the ring boxes behind her. Guests, the Caldwell family, Keisha, and a few close friends stood and clapped. Amara's heart skipped as Ethan took her hands and whispered, "You're everything to me." The ceremony was simple, but heartfelt. They read vows they had written themselves, not just to each other, but to Nia, Liam, and Theo, promises to build a life full of love and unity. When Theo couldn't resist and ran up to hug Ethan in the middle of the ceremony, everyone laughed, and Amara felt happy tears slide down her cheeks. The reception was held at the Caldwell estate in Bedford, the garden glowing with autumn lights and flowers. The kids danced with their grandparents, Naya leading a choreographed routine, while Liam and Theo battled over who would cut the cake first. In a quiet moment on the terrace, Amara stood beside Ethan, looking down at the joyful gathering. "Are you happy?" he asked, wrapping an arm around her waist. "More than I ever dreamed," she replied, leaning into him. Ethan kissed her forehead. "I used to think I had everything, money, success. But you and the kids, you were what I was missing. Now I feel complete." But the moment was interrupted when a catering staff member brought a bouquet with a card attached. "Congratulations, but this isn't over." Amara shivered, recognizing the handwriting from the anonymous messages. She handed the card to Ethan, whose expression darkened. "Amara, I hired a private investigator," he said. "They found the person behind the messages, an old business rival trying to throw me off balance. He was arrested this morning." Amara exhaled deeply, though a faint trace of anxiety remained. "He won't be able to hurt us now, will he?" Ethan squeezed her hand firmly. "No one will ever touch our family. I promise." When they returned to the party, Nia tugged Amara and Ethan toward the dance floor. "Mom, Dad, dance with us," she squealed. The five of them, Amara, Ethan, Nia, Liam, and Theo, held hands and danced in a circle, laughter and music swirling around them. Amara looked at her children, Ethan, and felt that every struggle, the tabloids, the threats, the pressure had been worth it. This wasn't just a beginning. It was everything family love, and forever. Amara stood beside Ethan as night fell, watching the kids play with their grandparents. She thought about their journey from a fateful night through 5 years apart, to life-threatening surgery, and this day. "We made it, Ethan," she whispered. He kissed her, his eyes shining. "And we'll keep making it together." Beneath the stars, Amara knew that no matter what came next, they would face it as a strong, loving, and unbreakable family.